Hey everybody, and welcome to this weekly update with myself, Sarah Lean. So as usual, I'm going to be covering off some of the news stories that's been happening within the Microsoft Azure world this week and giving you some context around these news items, so stay tuned. So the first bit of news that I want to cover is actually several bits of news about one of the Azure products. So we've seen Windows Virtual Desktop be renamed this week. So we're now calling it Azure Virtual Desktop. So that's something to bear in mind if you're looking at documentation, if you're searching for information on the internet, you might now see that being labelled as Azure Virtual Desktop. And in terms of what's been happening with that product this week, we have seen some announcements in terms of new features. So in public preview is now the ability to store your Azure Virtual Desktop metadata in the UK, which is a big one for a lot of customers. We've also seen the team announce that they are actually going to be releasing a new public preview very soon. And that public preview is going to be around Azure Active Directory native join. So you're no longer going to need a traditional Active Directory server to join your Azure Virtual Desktops to. You'll now be able to use Azure Active Directory. So that's a public preview that's been announced but isn't quite out in public at the moment. So stay tuned for more information on that. So key rotation is something that a lot of customers are employing now to try and reduce the risk of secrets leaking out into the public. And what we've seen now with the Azure storage team is that there's going to be new policies that you can set and enable so that if people are creating new Azure storage endpoints, they will be forced to actually put in a key rotation policy so that that key will be rotated after a certain amount of time or after a certain amount of other activities that are happening. And this is quite crucial to being able to, like I say, keep those secrets and keep those keys quite secure within your environment. You'll also be able to set alerts so that you know that a key is coming up for expiry, and then you can actually start to rotate that either with APIs or in the CLI command or in a PowerShell or even in the Azure portal. So lots coming around that feature as well. So we've also seen some pricing announcements made, and the Azure Sentinel and Azure Monitor team have introduced something that will help reduce your costs. So when you look at Azure Sentinel, you'll see something called capacity reservations, and that's the pricing plan that you would have bought. They've now renamed that to commitment tiers, and with these new commitment tier namings, we've actually seen new tiers being introduced around higher data ingestion. There's also been announcements around some of what happens to the tiers if you go over that data ingestion and how that resets and the pricing that happens when you do go over that commitment tier that you've committed to. So definitely have a look at this announcement in more detail, understand the nitty-gritty and how the new pricing changes and the new name will actually affect your environment and hopefully save you some money. Now the last bit of news is around Azure Migrate, and they've released a public preview that now supports a private link. So this new private preview actually allows you to connect privately and securely to the Azure Migrate service over an express route connection with private peering or a site-to-site VPN connection. And with this is going to allow you to be more compliant and add an extra layer of security to that transactions that you're either doing from a discovery point of view with Azure Migrate or a migration point of view. So again, have a look at this and see if you can implement it, but it's still in public preview at the moment. Thank you so much for tuning in to this weekly update. Hopefully this has been helpful to you and you have caught up on some of the amazing Azure news that has happened this week. If you've liked this video, please do hit that like button and hit subscribe, because I do these videos every Friday and we're coming up to the 100th one. So hopefully that will be a good one.